So I was going to make it a Q&A, but actually could be a Q&A. I mean, like today is just very organic anyway. The class became a workshop. The workshop became a class. It worked, right? So this Q&A is going to be whatever it's going to be. You got to leave in like 40 minutes ish. So I don't know, maybe it won't go for 90 minutes anyway. So we could have some fun with it, because why not? We're here. We got the space, and you don't know anything about what you just got yourself into. It's going to be good. Don't worry. And Stephane's here to share as well. So maybe I'll start off and I'll ask a couple of questions, and then we just make it like a bit of a chat conversation. Unless anyone has any questions about Inspire. Do you have any questions about Inspire? Apart from what it is?
Yeah, I think I'm fairly clear on what it is.
Okay. Oh, do you need this apparently?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I'm more interested in the sort of transformation side of it.
Yeah.
And the story work particularly. But I guess I was interested in, so with the story work,
Yeah.
what if you're not kind of necessarily aware of that narrative, or if you think you have an idea, but it might not be right about what the story is that you keep telling yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Rather than me answer it, I'll let these guys, because how long ago did you do yours, Stephane?
That was 10 years ago.
Wow. So he's done it 10 years ago. You've done at least about 5 of them in the last few years. So maybe you get some impressions. And I didn't know you were going to ask that question. They didn't know either, unless they're psychic, which they kind of are. So why don't maybe go to Stephane, and then he can
go first.
Can you repeat the question?
So it's just about, I guess, the story work and the narrative that's going on in your mind, but what if that's kind of like buried quite deep in the subconscious?
And so she was like, how do I know what it is? How do I identify it? How's it all going to work? Do I need to know it? Blah, blah, blah. So why don't you go, Stephane, and I will come to Lizzie.
I could go 2 ways. One way would be how the work during the training made me realize and able to realize the way the story was impacting me and made me able to step out of it. But yes, I can start with that. Basically, it was during a little conversation, like after the practice. Dylan asked us, what did we feel? Something we became aware of during the class. And as is often happens, there is something that moves within us and we don't necessarily know what. But just during the discussion at some point, he pointed out that I had a certain posture, maybe a certain body expression. And so when I was made aware of that, then the following was, is there an emotion that's something you feel? And by all those little attributes by which the story expresses itself, I became aware that, yes, that's it. But what is it? So I had a cry, as it happens so when we shift a big block of karma. But then the real realization was to identify what triggered that, and actually that this realization deepened or came even a long time after this moment. There another layer of to pinpoint the root of it. And but the first moment, yes, was that during the training at this point where I mean, I suppose I was familiar with my story, but I was so much it that I didn't have any perspective to say this is it, and this is me, this is it. So it was a first opportunity to come to realize that it's there, it exists, but I am not it, and then in everyday life it keeps playing. And as I said before, I've become more aware after the training that it will try to find a way to express itself always, but then we have this ability now to put some space, some distance between its expression and what we are. So yeah, we can tame it and love it. Yeah. So how to answer your question, how can we become aware of it when it's so deeply seated in subconscious? Because it expresses itself, it doesn't stay quiet. So you will know, you will know once you've got a few clues of how it impacts your voice, your presence, the way you move, the way you stand, the way you accept to be seen or wants to hide, that sort of thing,
Nice. I'll pass it back.
I think Stephane explained that really well. My awareness of my story when I first started this work wasn't really as a story per se. It was just I had noticed certain patterns and behaviors that like kept me going round and round in circles, and I was like chasing my tail and I couldn't get out. But I also didn't know how to stop those patterns and behaviors because what was the story was like so loud behind it, and I'd never worked at like sitting with that, if that makes sense. And the beauty for me was that I came in and I did my first awaken and then Inspire pretty much straight afterwards. And being there in front of a room, having to stand in front of a room, basically, like my story just spoke volumes. And that program gave me every opportunity it could to actually confront it, and instead of run away from it, kind of tackle it, but in like a loving way, if that makes sense. No violence, just love. And then once I'd gained a certain level of awareness of it, then I started to notice, and this was coming out of the programs, and one of the reasons I've stayed in is because I've started to notice that my story shows up absolutely everywhere. And the more work I do, the more opportunity I have to see it and overcome it, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
And I think my answer to that question will be like, if it's so deeply seated, how do I identify it? How do I know what it is? Because as both of them said in their own way, because it's everywhere. It's all the time. It's in your breath, it's in your body, it's in your movement, it's in the choices that you make or don't make. Like it's speaking all the time. So you don't need to know what it is, but you will when you get to the program and when you do the work. But also being too attached to actually knowing what it is, like the needing to know what it is sometimes the thing that's just going to stop you from freeing yourself from it anyway. Because the very thing that needs to know and identify it is itself. Like it is trying to go, this story thing, let me help you with it. Who's speaking? Well, the story is speaking. You know what I mean? So that part of you that wants to identify it, that wants to basically have control over it, is the very problem. So the problem cannot solve itself. You know what I mean? And you don't need to actually, because the process is not so much in a logical progression of you identifying it, therefore controlling, keeping the story under control. It is coming out of that, version of the not you, into you, like he was saying, and to see it. So as you are aware that it's like, oh, there it is. The moment you identify it, the moment I want to say identify, but like you get that distance, you're free from it. So I know it's kind of a little bit, I don't know if it's conceptual the way I'm saying it. But simply, you don't have to worry about that. Like, you simply just need to show up and do the work that's there. You know, the process is built in such a way that it will help you identify if it's needed, but actually more than that, free yourself from it. Yeah. And you'll do that not just in a logical way or in like a head thinking way. You'll do that in your body. You'll do that with your breathing. You'll do that in like all these different ways that you can relate to as a human being, not just thinking, because thinking is just one of the modes, you know, that's available to us as human being. So, I don't know, does that give you more clarity or does it make it worse? Good question. Any other questions? Not that you are the question panel, but you kind of can be since you've got us here. Otherwise, I've got some questions for the panel. We'll become a panel anyway, so we'll just declare ourselves to be the panel. Because it's our bloody session, isn't it? Any other questions? Okay. Can you think quicker? Just kidding. Yeah. Pass the potato back.
It's about post-training teaching in regard to the story. I found that in the last 10 years, every single time I step in the room in front of people, I heal myself. I heal that story. Because it's not about me in that space. You come to teach, you show up, you meet people, and you're there to facilitate something, whatever it is that they will move within themselves. It's becoming a way to serve something. So it's not sainthood, but we know that teaching yoga is not the way to make millions. If we do that, of course, some people might make millions. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you will, but we do that because of we have a fiber for service, for people, and maybe for healing. Let's dare say it, and that contributes. In my experience, I feel that it's probably the thing that is the most significant in becoming myself, as opposed as staying the story more and more.
Did you have a question pop up already? Or no? You're the holder of the potato.
I'm on it.
Thank you. I think my question would be, and I want to also, because some people, would have joined the thing to receive the recording, and I think that's too good an opportunity here with the wealth of experience and years across our panel here. To miss on some of the answers that we can give some of the people who are considering it either now or later, which actually are partly why we're also kind of filming it, because you never know what gold just comes out. I think one of the questions is like, what is Inspire, which is now the name of the program. I know years ago it wasn't called Inspire, it was Yoga Teach Training. What is it to you, and what is it? I think I've asked this question before in a different way, but I'll ask it again. It's like, what has it done for you? What's been the effect of what I call Inspire now in your life? Like, why bother, basically? Why should someone care? How should they? You can start if you want. Yeah.
I said this actually on the masterclass earlier in the week,
Yeah. Is the
But
mic volume okay?
all the Inspires I've done, but it's the first one that sticks in my head, have been an opportunity for me to step into the leadership I knew was within me and the leader I had the potential to be, but my story was so loud that I never would have contemplated that I was good enough to do something like that. And the reason I've done several, I won't say the number, don't know why not, but is because again, talking about the story work, like I'm just never done. Like there's always something underneath it. And I come into the program and I work on it and I heal it. And then I go away and I have the opportunity to apply that in all the areas of my life, not just teaching yoga or facilitating my community, whatever it is I do. And I think also being in that context of working on essentially what you feel is going on in your head, which is your thoughts and, story work, to then be able to see how that manifests in the body as well. Particularly important for me because I have a disease. So obviously there's stuff going on there for me to heal. And, I watch all these like reels and stuff that come up on social media, and there are plenty of people doing personal development work and they just sit there, and talk to someone. But ultimately, that's all manifesting, as I believe, on a cellular level inside the body. And I think until, as Stephane said, like until you allow yourself to have that release, it's very, very difficult to move forward. So I think that's the unique element of Inspire for me, is being able to see the story work and how it shows up in the body. And then the kind of resounding thing I come away with is just feeling like more and more of a leader each time, and confidence, I think, is the biggest thing. Confidence to do stuff I never ever would have imagined. And it just comes so much more easily each time I do it.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll pass the potato to Stephane.
Yeah, this word inspire inspires me because during the training, I don't know if I can talk about my why.
Sure, of course.
Like in self-development and or business, all sort of ways to expand some areas of life, comes the idea of really identifying the why we do things, why we want to take this journey, what is the drive, the inspiration. And the why that I've set for myself or realize what it was 10 years ago, it's still the same today. It's to inspire, to contribute, and to live my dreams. And and to inspire, what does it mean to me? It means that a very ordinary human being, full of ailments and not enoughness, dares to show up as he is or she is, and help people moving, realizing that for themselves too. So to me, that's what inspire others, in that way, not to be admired, but to make them realize that I can do that too.
You have a question? No. You guys have questions that you think I should ask? You do.
Yeah, so what about the community? Like, what is like when you interact with everyone during the program? Just
The word that comes to mind is energy. And actually, I kind of feel it right now. I was just stopping and reflecting. But to be in a room with like-minded, like-hearted people is so rare. When you think about how like you pass through life and, you know, a lot of people you pass on the street, you wouldn't even say hi to, you wouldn't like take a second look at. And then just, I was reflecting again on like friends and family and stuff, like they're all amazing and I love them all, but there is something so humbling about being together with people who sort of see the world in the way that you do. And that for me translates into like a physical feeling that I have when I'm on program. I just feel like I feel so connected. I feel so grounded. It creates a little bubble experience, and that's really what community is. And it's not all sunshine and daisies. Like there's some hard stuff as well. Dylan doesn't exactly go easy on us either, but it's all for, you know, this amazing thing, which is transformation. And when you transform together as a community, it's, again, the word that comes to mind is like humbling, so humbling. I feel really privileged actually to have contributed this much so far. And it's one of the things that brings me back, because I don't have that level of accountability and honesty and awareness with my friends, nor my family. And as I say, they're amazing. I love them for who they are and what they bring to my life. But I wouldn't have got this far in my life and been as successful as I have without a community like this one. I just wouldn't have done.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to if I do my head. So from doing the work, why have you go?
So I have built a community of my own. I came into this work with this tiny little voice inside my heart, which was saying something along the lines of, you know, you have a message to share. And I didn't want to listen to it because of all the not enoughness that was going on and all the self-consciousness I had. And I suddenly realized one day that I had something unique to offer, which was the ability to heal myself in something which is currently considered scientifically impossible. And I set myself up to do that. And it's meant confronting probably my biggest demons every single day. And I've started to see results, and I wanted to share that with other people. And so I started my own community around healing. And what Inspire gave me was the ability and the bravery, the courage to speak authentically about my experience, whether or not people were going to like it, because ultimately it wasn't there to be liked. It was there to make a difference and to touch the people who it needed to touch. And yeah, I've gone on to do that. I have that community. I facilitate that community. And in order to support myself, I have my community from Inspire, from all the work I've done with Dylan in a circle as well. And everything I learn there, I bring through. And I believe that in order to hold space for other people, it's very important to let someone else hold space for you too. And yeah, for me to do justice to my people, I feel like I need to have a community and to essentially be practicing what I'm preaching. So not preaching, sharing.
Yeah. I think the community question is a good one. Maybe Stephane can add to. Can you ask the question again, the community one? That?
Yeah, so when you did the program, like people around you would, how did that happen? Big impact in just the whole training, what the people like, just your experience.
What's your name?
Lizzie.
As Lizzie said when she started, you know, it's quite rare to have interest-free interaction with people, not based on something to get from people, and that's what we have. You know, of course we get a lot, but we don't join to get something from others. If anything, we give, And then we realized at some point that we receive so much more than what we could ever imagine if we come with mindset of I'm going to get something. It's not commercial relationships, it's not competition, it's not school, it's not business, it's heart to heart. And sometimes at first, if we're not used to come in that space and operate from that space, we might feel a bit observant, but it doesn't take long before I start to melt and to feel people, because energy, I believe, can be doesn't know any distance, time, boundaries. We can connect people on screen, but share in a room when all different aspects of being are in presence of each other, it's something else. Yeah. To me, the experience was mostly the experience of trust, being able to trust and feel that I was trusted too. That's very powerful, and probably create the cement for anything that happens. Yep. What was the second question?
So doing the Inspire, what did it inspire to do?
Oh yes, I was thinking I believe that we're not finished. We never finished. What we might have built, which is recognizable, tangible, conspicuous, belongs to the past. And what we are building now is not visible yet. And I built a community of my own as well. Maybe not physical, located in one physical place, but I've come across quite a large amount of people, some of whom we have been in contact regularly through classes for 6, 7, 8 years, some of them. So things have happened, but directly related to this activity, this work, but also things on parallel lanes, like I won't be long. I don't want to go too personal, but for example, separated from the mother of my children, left the family house after 25 years of relationship and 3 children. So and the years that led to that, there was a lot of suffering and desperation and not knowing what to do, where to go. Couldn't leave the children behind. It didn't work anymore with the partner. At some point, the decision has been made, or some events created that. What I'm trying to say is that it's very easy or possible that we will fall into chaos and darkness and drown in those sort of circumstances. But through that, the tools that we have at our disposal to know that we can rely on life, not even on self, but on life, which is dynamic and promoting our growth always. We can overcome and evolve and overcome everything. And so this is through the training, and the work that was initiated during the training and that keeps taking place after that. We grow some skills, some abilities to to come back to what we are, the potential, and overcome. Yeah. And today, I can say, 4 years later, healing still needs to happen, and it's not. But we are very good friends with the mother of my children, and my two sons are amazingly supportive. He's 25 and 23 now. I couldn't have believed things would turn out this way. My daughter, she's 15. She's hard work, but she's 15. Things will be just as good. Yeah. So yes, the program training starts to make us aware of our possibilities of being rooted in trusting life. No, that's the only way I can put it, and the rest is circumstantial. I don't know if that answers any question, but
It's beautiful. Do you have any questions? Not even related to what Stephane just shared. You missed question. Do you have any questions we should ask? Or and answer? Or do you ask it and answer it? You guys just run this, I'll just turn up. Guys are leaders anyway.
Oh, well, I wondered about talking about blocks and obstacles because
Yeah, that'll be useful for people who are right now in the stage where they're considering it.
yeah.
Why don't you ask the question and answer it?
Yeah, thanks for taking my head first.
Faster. You're always in training, you know that, right?
Always. My realization is that my block and obstacle every time to any of these programs is the very thing I'm coming in to heal, or at least it derives from that. When I first came into this work, I did Awaken and then had the opportunity to sign up for Inspire. Funnily enough, the very thing I'd worked on at Awaken was the relationship that I had with my mum and my family around validation and the need for their approval, or the stamp of approval on basically anything I did. And then it came to signing up for Inspire, and the one thing that stood in the way more than anything was, it's kind of in two parts, but it was basically the money. And then the validation I needed from my immediate family to part with that money on something which I knew that they would not approve of. And it's so funny because at the time, I wish I could just go back to myself and say, like, just look at the irony here, because the one thing you came into Awaken to heal is now coming up again, and the universe is giving you an opportunity to look at it and say, actually, do you really, really want this? And that's an important thing I have to keep asking myself, is like, do I really want this? What do I want? And do I want this enough to, to make the jump or the investment or whatever it might be? And I have to say, every time I come up for a renewal or it comes to a program or whatever, I still have those doubts and those thoughts, but I just remember I'm only doing justice to the first version of myself who came into this work to heal if I meet myself where I am, if I meet the story where I am, and I take the opportunity to step over the line and step off the other side of the fence and heal it. Again, it's a constant process of healing. And as I say, that's, something in my head, I'm thinking, how do I justify this? And it's like, actually, how do I not justify it? So yeah, it's a huge one. It happens to me every single time.
Yeah, totally agree. The reason you want to do it, but then you don't, the reason you don't want to do it is the very reason you need to do it, or you should be doing it. Like, people say, I don't have the time. It's like, that is the reason you need to do it, because if you don't have time, what is going to change that? Or someone say, I don't have money. It's like, that's the reason you need to do it. You need to heal that. Or like my family doesn't approve, or they might not accept me or love me. It's like, that's the reason you need to do it, because what is going to be different? What is going to suddenly make them approve of you? Well, nothing. Nothing is going to magically just turn up like a little fairy and just go, ding, oh, suddenly we fucking approve of you. They're just going to be consistently themselves until you change, until you're transformed like you did. They don't transform. And the thing is, when you transform, they have no choice, because that's a different you showing up to the same environment. A different you that shows up to the same environment, it's going to solicit a different response. Like it doesn't even solicit, like it just, without requesting a different response, it demands it because it's a different you. Like a version of you that doesn't need the approval, doesn't need the approval. That's it. So they have to respond to that. Like they have no choice. There is no going back. You're not like, oh, but I don't need, but actually, can I have the approval? It's just like, I don't need the approval. I'm just doing this thing. And it's like, well, shit, I got to deal with that now. They're going to have to do it. So it's like a version of you that is healed, which ties into the first thing you said, which is, don't let the thing that you came here to heal be the reason you don't. Like someone who, let's say, for example, needs to forgive something so the healing can happen, unless you come in and do the healing and the forgiveness is given, which is a simple example, the version of you that has forgiven will get a very different response to the version of you that hasn't forgiven, for example, like is carrying the resentment or is carrying the pain, or these days people love the word trauma. Fuck it, I'll use the word trauma. The version of you that is traumatized, still living in it, cannot get a different response, even though you want it, and that is the thing that you want. You cannot have a different response because that version of you is still traumatized. But until you come and heal that trauma, people love that word, that version of you that is not traumatized anymore is going to get the response that you want. Like if it is, to be loved or to be accepted or to be whatever. So it's interesting. I actually love, when you said it from that first time you said it, it's like, don't let the thing that you are coming here to heal be the reason that you don't heal, like you don't do the work. The very reason you came, don't let it be the block. I think it's so powerful. Love it. Like, but we won't do that because it's electronics. You're talking about obstacles,
Obstacles. In my case, obstacles to do the work, the program, ego, and I guess, yes, it's trying to stay in a place that I think I know where I am. I need a bit of that, but no, I will. I don't need to surrender completely. I can't, because I've got some elements of understanding of this, of that, of culture, of different practices. So ego protection, trying to protect what? That's something to find out during the work. That there is nothing to protect, nothing to be in fear of losing. But to me, it was this attachment to it's a subtle thing, but it's definitely egotic and probably fear-based of not wanting to dive fully because there might be something that hidden in the depth of the work that I cannot be aware of now, but that will transform me so much that I will not recognize myself, or the version of myself that wanted to be in control, to stay in control. So yes, I think my ego was, and it still is, you know, sometimes I think I know better, and until life creates an experience where, you know, the knowing is irrelevant, you have to do it, you know. And that's what the work provides, the training provides. Even sometimes blocks resistance. I remember I've seen in some programs, people show up with conditions that just erupt out of nowhere during, you know, during the day, or after 2 or 3 days. No, a fever, a rage against the facilitator. You know, I mean, you know,
Never happened.
all sorts of things. You know, yeah. And those blocks, those obstacles, I mean, they're not restricted to the training. You know, the training is a magnifying glass of what happens in life, right? Yes, and I realized, yes, it's the fear. It's fear-based. No, I say ego, but it's the same thing. You know, the fear of losing this identity that I was so attached to. That's, but in the vast scheme of things, you know, this identity is nothing. No, it's so limiting. So, yeah, it's very fortunate to be able to have this opportunity to come to face all those aspects of ourselves, really, and the elements, as Dylan said, the elements that drive us to suggest to us that that's what we should be doing at some point might become breaking forces. And no, that's most of the time we overcome, we stay in the program, and I've never seen someone staying and say, I regret I did. No. So yeah, but just like in life, you know, we have the choice. We give up, we go back to it reminds me of a quote, but I don't necessarily like Obama that much, but he had a quote that was quite interesting. Someone was discussing about the futility of education. He said, education is futile, try ignorance. And the same thing here, we know those things that we should be working on, but at some point there is a voice that, oh, not now, or it's not that much of a problem. Okay, maybe it's not, but we know it is.
And sometimes, I don't know why, I would just give it back to you. You are the holder of it. To elaborate on that, it's like I get to see generations of people that have come in the program, and then I see generations of people that don't make it into the program, and I see that don't make it into the program, that come years later, 1, 2, 3 years later, and the effect of it, of staying where it's comfortable, where it's known, where you are in control, which is really just an illusion, staying the same. And I see people kind of resisting their own process, and going back to how life was, as you were saying, or coming back a year, 2, 3 years later, regretting that they've spent another few years in that same tumble dryer that they were in. You know, like initially they convinced themselves, like, oh, the reason is, you know, some kind of logical reason, like, oh, it's time, it's money, it's the person or people in my life, or it's this or that. But actually, it's like, I think we talked about in the yoga class before, you know, the transformation is in the direction of the resistance. And unless you move into the direction of the resistance, whatever the resistance that is showing up, you cannot have the breakthrough, because the breakthrough is on the other side of the resistance. So when you work the work that we do in the program is being supported to move through. You don't even have to do it on your own. It's like being supported, your hand held, and you are held in a loving, supportive way so that you can go across this terrain of the not self into the self with the capital S, like, you know, the higher self. You move through that terrain, because that terrain, like moving through that terrain is like breaking free from the you know, the planet, like the gravitational pull of the earth. It's like you launch a rocket, it takes so much energy to get out, you know, into the atmosphere, and then once you're past, then you're free. But that the energy, the pull of the ego, the story, you want to call it, it's like it's going to keep pulling you back, and it'll come up with all the so-called, you know, like tangible and valid reasons, like, oh, I don't have the money, the time, the this, that. But like deep inside, I can see, and they know it, and I can see it in them. It's not the reason that they're giving me. It's not the money. It's not the time. It's not the person or people in their life. It's that on some level, they're too scared. They don't want to do it. They're afraid. They, you know, they need the control. They need it to be comfortable. They need it to stay. They need this, that. So then they stay and they go back. And then I just see them kind of like going back through the tumble dryer. And my response will generally just be like, no worries. Have a good year or whatever it is. Right? Good, no worries. We're here. We're doing our thing. And then I'll see them go back through the tumble dryer. And then life does this thing, and especially in the last few years, the tumble dryer, the spin cycle has been accelerated. So 2020, suddenly we were put into the tumble dryer then sped up 21, 22, 23, 24. Now it's like freaking hyper speed, lightning speed. And then once in a while it spits you out, and then it just pulls you back in and tumbles again. So it's like, feel free to go back into the tumble dryer, or there is an answer for you to actually zoom out and see yourself or the not self, and actually get in touch with who you truly are and the potential that you are, that is beyond logic. And then from that place, amazing things get created, you know, things become possible that just cannot have been possible, because that version of you can only generate the reality that you've got now. But a different frequency of you is going to generate a completely different reality that this version cannot even fathom. Like, you could dream about it, but you can't fathom that, you know. And like, to move from here to there, that's the gravitational pull of the ego is what we're breaking free from. And when you get to that level, it's like, it's so freaking insane what's possible that you can't imagine. We're staying here kind of going, yeah, but I can't because of this and that and that. And it's like, you will continue to get that reality. That's just how life works. And I'm not even saying, it's not even about the program. It's like, I'm talking about us as a human being and our evolution as human being. Essentially, that's what this work is. So anyway, I can go on, but I won't. All right. It's 20 past. What are you going to say, or go? What's your next question, podcaster? For the people that are on the, you know, right now at the cusp of changing their lives, potentially, or not. Question for the question.
The question that you always start with every time we do anything is like, why are you here? And I think I find that so important, because it's very easy to move through one's life kind of just a bit like a plastic bag, just like not really having decided
I try
any
not to call people
direction.
plastic bags.
It wasn't you who called someone a plastic bag. Kate Harvey.
Yes, you did, right? Yeah, hey, good one. That's a good
Reference
one.
to Katy Perry song. It's quite good.
Yeah.
It's so easy to kind of move through kind of just letting like the wind dictate your direction almost. And for me, I had always had a real strength of drive and determination and knowing exactly what I wanted for the first part of my life anyway. I haven't been around that long, but like before I came into the work, I was absolutely like driven and determined. And there came to a point in my life where I just didn't know what I wanted anymore. I didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know where I was going. And And I remember coming to my first ever Awaken Masterclass. It was February 2021, so in and around the pandemic. And Dylan's first question was, why are you here? And I felt it a really odd question, because I was like, well, I don't really know, like, what should I not be here type of thing. And I was kind of like, yeah, why am I here? And I remember the answer, which was that there was just something inside of me that knew there was more to life than whatever I'd experienced so far. And not to say I hadn't had an amazing life, I really, really had in so many ways, but I just looked outside of me and I looked at myself really hard in the mirror, and I just didn't recognize my life anymore, didn't recognize the person I was becoming, the person I'd become. And I could identify it as basically loss of direction, having absolutely no idea where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do with my life. So that why question was such a resounding moment for me, because even though it's taken me a long time to really have my life why land with me, at least I've been, when I've been asked that question, I've answered it. I've had some direction, you know, whether it's for that particular program or, you know, for the year I've done in Inner Circle or whatever it might be. So I think that's a really important question. And I ask it to myself, even when I sit in on Dylan's free things, like Dylan asks a question, why are you here? And I don't say this from like a standing up on a pedestal or soapbox or anything, but like I've kind of been headfirst in this work for like three years. And I come along to the free stuff and I get just as much out of that as I do from any of the paid programs. Because
So they shouldn't bother.
yeah, just do the free stuff.
Just the free thing.
No, definitely no. Come and do the paid stuff. But yeah, it's, you know, it's a moment of recalibration for me, and realizing that I am going to be at a different place in my journey every time I come, you know, to a moment of self-reflection, as I say, whether that's a program or it might be a renewal or, you know, meeting someone new. Like that's what I come back to is why am I here?
And thank you for that. And I was kind of joking, but I wasn't, you know, it's like the reason it feels like you get so much from the free stuff is that because you've done, you know, to a great depth this work in the last 3 years, and you said head forward in first. It's like you put yourself fully into all the free things and all the paid programs, because that is, you know, your kind of commitment to this work. Therefore, when you go back to the free masterclass, I'm speaking about it, you know, the tip of the iceberg, the light touch. It makes so much sense because you've gone through all of that depth, you know, right down bottom of the iceberg. So then when you come back up to the top and you look at the top level stuff that I'm sharing at the masterclass, it's like, oh, that every one of those things makes so much sense because you've explored what each of those things mean in depth, you know, from doing the work. And I agree with the why. It's like, what's the life that you want? And what if that could just be possible for you right now? You know, and when you were speaking, I got like this inspiration, I guess you could say. You know, this year I lost my mom. And one moment she's here, next moment she's not. Just like that. You know, and that's how life is. Sometimes I see people kind of delaying, and it's like, what are you waiting for? Today we are here, tomorrow we are not. That relationship that you haven't healed, they might not be there tomorrow. What's going to be different? If I hadn't done this work all these years, I'd have a very different relationship, you know, to my mother and father and, you know, the people in my life. And it's sobering. You know, like it just slaps you awake no matter what drama you're in, because suddenly you realize like life is precious. You know, and so many people are carrying so many things that have not been said, not have been expressed, not healed. And we are waiting as if we've got this extended lease on life. Well, maybe you might be, but those people around you, there is no guarantees. So I think, you know, no matter how much, whatever, wealth or whatever you can build, that's all wonderful, but it doesn't make anything. You know, I've built things and I've lost things. And at the end of the day, the thing you remember is those relationships. And, you know, some people are, I see it, right? It's like circling around the work. And, you know, it's just like talking to people who, there's a reason why you are here. Like, you know, I don't know, whatever, you're watching this stuff now or later, whatever. Like, there's a reason. There's a part of you that brought you here. And there's a part of you that will not want you to be here. And that will continue through the process, even after you've done the work. But if you, whichever part you listen to, whichever version you listen to, it's going to give you probably a very, like, completely different life. One version is going to give you one version of life. The other voice is going to give you a completely different version. Like in this example, one version could be the difference of healing something between you and this person, but probably also generationally. And then you have a complete different trajectory in life, as opposed to someone else who listened to, let's say, the voice, the fear in the head, and they just continued. And in the example that I gave, that person could be gone tomorrow or next year. You just don't know. And you will just stay there. Like that's it. That relationship gets frozen in time because that person is gone. So and people, it's always like when people say, "Oh, you know, I don't have the time," like, "Oh, I'll do it later." It's like, okay, just consider that we're here for a short time. What are you waiting for? Or like some people will, like, you know, struggle, right? Like they're just in this, like, I don't know, relationship that they shouldn't be in. And they're convincing that, oh, later, and it's just horrible. They're fucking up their kids, you know, and their life sucks, you know, and it's like the whole thing sucks. And it's like, okay, when? When are you going to do the work that gives you enough strength to actually get out or heal it? When? So it's beyond just doing a program. It's like what we're talking about here is your life.
And so because it's
Hold on.
the program, and sometimes, I mean, the essence of the program is deprogramming, right? As well.
Yeah.
Because I see in regard to this 25 years relationship that ended, it happened that the healing could be done with a separation. I don't think it's not a matter of speculating of if it would have been possible otherwise, it would have probably been done otherwise. But there's those programs, programming elements or programmed elements deep within us that separation means failure of the couple, trauma for the children, and it is for the children. But sometimes it may also be a starting point to a new family dynamic. And trauma can occur, as Dylan said, people, we don't move out, we stay, let's keep up, let's save appearances, and we don't make decisions that are painful. But the cost of not doing that is to have pain every day. For how long? Yeah. So through a program that brings us such a close contact with this aspect of ourselves, which is beyond the mental, we can then see of all the aspects of life that have, you know, we didn't create them. We didn't decide that it should be that way. We just take it and comply and repeat, and yeah. And at some point we start to realize that, oh, actually I can move that out. And sometimes we don't even have to make the effort. Things will fall out because, you know, they don't resonate anymore with yeah. So there is so many, I wouldn't say byproducts, but so many areas of life that are touched. It reminds me of a Buddhist proverb that says that one single rainfall can, you know, extinguish 1,000 fires. You know, and I see it that way. That the rainfall is that, you know, this awareness of, you know, we come to more awareness of our potential, and those things that are not us, either they fall apart, they dissolve, or we find the strength to move them out of the way. Yeah, program to deprogram.
I love that. The Inspire program. I just want to add one more thing to what you just said about pain, because, you know, we had Jane who was here, and she's done the Inspire program, and, you know, to make it a little bit more tangible, perhaps, to some of the things we're talking. And you said, like, you know, it's your choice, and you can stay in the pain. And she actually had physical back pain, you know, herniated disc. She said I didn't realize, but she had 15 years of like a dull ache or this excruciating pain that she was suffering with because of the herniation of disc in her lower back. Thank you, Lizzie. And 15 years. And it's kind of like, that's a very tangible and kind of simple, but also maybe not so simple example. Like living with that kind of pain. And for her, it's more like a tangible physical back pain. For others, it could be an emotional pain that's like that. It's this like dull pain that's just there, this background noise, and we accept as the norm. Or once in a while, it's excruciating. But I think, like, my question for people always is just, how bad does it have to get before you would make a change? You know, like, how much more worse does it have to get before you make a change? Because it seems like that's when actually people make the change, you know, or look for a solution. And it's very rare for someone to actually look for a solution when the problem is actually not so exacerbated yet, or preempting the problem and just kind of putting solutions in place so that you don't hit it later. But most people will kind of come to this work when they have some kind of a pain problem, and, you know, pain being metaphorical. Why wait? Or wait for there to be more pain? Why not just preempt? Or just where we are right now, start the process. Cool. Well, some good discussion. I didn't plan any of it. So it's really cool. Lizzie obviously had to go. She had to go like 25 minutes ago. We'll close up though. Any last question?
Just to add on that, what 3 words or phrases would you describe this back?
What 3 words or phrases?
3 words.
Where's the thing?
Phrases.
Oh, you got it.
Describe Inspire.
Grab the Thank you.
Inspire, contribute, live your dreams. No, that's relates to me, but how other people could relate to that, I'd say it's growing in awareness of what we don't know. What we don't know, we don't know what's coming, what's possible, but to know that we are not that gives space for possibilities to manifest, to arise and manifest. Life becomes dynamic, more open. Yeah.
Amazing. She hasn't done Inspire yet. No, no, don't throw it. Anything else? Otherwise we can wrap up.
Yes. I think I'm.
Yeah. So do you have anyone live right now? No, right? Okay, cool. Well, you're invited. We're starting 1st of June. There is also October. There is obviously next year. If you need to wait, you can go back to the Temple Dryer.
You start one in October.
There's one in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know, because I have few people who, like you said,
They need a bit more
of a
time.
BS excuse. I don't have time right now, but it's
Yeah.
for short notice.
And sometimes there is like tangible things, like, I've been speaking to some
Yes.
people lately and they're like, oh, I really want to do it, but now's not the time. Yeah, and that's okay. So there is October. We do two a year. One that starts in May. Well, it's now June. Another one that actually normally starts in October. Part 1 being online, 6 weekends, and part 2 in person. So this one starts in June 1st to the 7th for part 1, and then part 2, the in-person part, is 3rd of August to the 11th. Next cohort will be in somewhere beginning to mid of October. We'll get the dates out very soon. And part 2, the 9-day intensive, will be the end of January normally. And then again, we'll start the cycle again May next year and October next year. So we do 2 programs these days. We used to do 3, but we do 2 now. Thank you. That's cool.
Well, I'm glad I was able